Hey, everybody. Happy Saturday. Oh, I realized I forgot to clean off my desk. Ugh. All right. No one's allowed to look at my desk back there. Hey, hope everyone is good. I just wanted to touch base, like always, about this past week's discussion boards and then give a quick preview of this coming week. Everybody nailed the how to reduce everyday observational errors kind of discussion post. Some shout outs. Be systematic. That was Sarah Malika Rouge. Be used mixed methods. Sammy, always a good idea. Peer review process. Stephanie, great. Collaborators. Marcella, which is really similar. Higher sample sizes. Promote. Jamie, Zach. Reflexivity, like identifying your own biases. Ricardo, lots of you talked about technology to sort of double check yourself. Lauren, I was surprised. A group of anthropologists, nobody said, at least I don't think, said things like, well, spend more time in the community or, pay attention to building rapport. So those are sort of classic anthropology things, right? So anyway, make sure you think about those, right? Rapport building is a huge part of being an anthropologist. Calliope, I like your chart. The unknown unknowns, that's like, wow, I'm still thinking about that, right? That seems like the most problematic thing of all. You're also operationalizing, also good. So I admit to purposefully giving you like a really conceptually multi-dimensional and difficult concept, right? That was a little bit slippery. And this coming week, there's one that may actually be a little bit worse. And the reason is because sometimes when you're dealing with clients, be it your current client for your master's thesis or like a consulting gig, sometimes people are just vague about what they want and they don't mean to be. They don't even know that they are. They think they know, but then it's like, well, when you actually start talking to them about, as the anthropologist, like, okay, well, what are we assuming here? And like this exercise of, how to operationalize concepts can be really useful, right? Both for yourself and then like in getting clients to sort of think through something with you. About the second one, yeah, Lauren, totally agree. I would definitely use pre-existing scales, right? A couple of you said that, right? And so, yes, there are pre-existing scales for literacy. There are scales that measure poverty. So, like, absolutely. Um, I would be a little bit sometimes psychologists use what they call psychometric scales. And I would just be really cautious about assuming that all scales are sort of valid for all populations. And I'll give you two examples. Once I was working with a demographer in Togo in West Africa, and that demographer wanted to measure, so they were studying HIV and they wanted to measure caregiving. And there's this concept in psychology called role captivity, which essentially is asking, like, well, how trapped do family caregivers feel in providing care, right? Like, well, I'm stuck giving care to my uncle, blah, 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 right? And so one of the questions was that supposedly measured this, feeling trapped, right? This role captivity. One of the questions was, I I never have time for myself. And I remember pointing out to the demographer, like, West Africans don't have time for themselves. Like, saying that you have time for yourself is not really a good thing. Like, you're not supposed to live for yourself, right? Like, where an individual is part of a community, right? Like, it's a totally different concept. And so that particular question just didn't really make sense there. And then Lisa and I were dealing with this past week. Someone's measuring food insecurity. So the US Department of Agriculture has a measure of food insecurity. And they noticed, or we have noticed, that international students sometimes score really high on these scales of food insecurity. And there may well be a problem there, right, about food insecurity. But we did realize that one of the questions that the USDA asked to measure food insecurity is, I have trouble eating a balanced diet. Like, I have trouble eating a balanced diet. Well, what is a balanced diet? And if you're an international student used to a particular diet, and then suddenly you're in America, the land of cheeseburgers and, nachos, like what is a balanced diet, right? What if you just, if you are eating American food, but you don't think that's balanced, like, okay, so are you eating a balanced diet or not, right? And so the way an American might think of balanced is quite different, right, than say an international student, right? Okay, this coming week, this topic coming up is it's on really getting ready to do research from a positivism point of view, right? And moving from these vague ideas about what you want to study to setting up like how you'll actually be able to recognize it and operationalize it, right? Or operationalize the variables that make up it, your research question. So that includes a review of last week's operationalizing variables, an introduction into how research questions are developed, and then in particular, how hypotheses are set up. Remember from Bernard, the point of a hypothesis is to just spell out relationships between, say, two variables that you think you may want to observe. In other words, like Sarah, Malika, and Aruj said this past week, right? Or emphasized like being systematic in your study. Okay, there's also some stuff about ethics, particularly poor choices in anthropology and ethics or social science and ethics. I present to you guys AAA's, American Anthropology Association's Code of Ethics. So anthropologists are, professional anthropologists are typically bound to that. And then there's a classic reading in there by Carolyn Fleur-Laban from, I think, the 1990s, but that's still super valuable. Let me know if the assignment makes sense from Bernard. I will tell you the most important thing is that table 3.1 in the 5th and 6th editions, right? Which is about generating types of studies. I think I am assigning you guys to use that to generate hypotheses, right? So it's a good idea for you guys to get used to thinking about how to set up hypotheses, right? That test bivariate relationships between variables. Bivariate, the interaction of just two variables at a time, right? So that could be how something from the environment affects a particular observed behavior that you expect to see, or testing how a particular belief or value might affect some specific reported behavior, right? And so that table is what I have you use for this week's assignment. My hint, or at least strong advice, is to keep your hypotheses simple. For the two hypotheses I think two that I ask you to do, right? Keep them very simple, meaning as this variable goes up, this variable goes down. As this variable goes up, this variable will also go up. Like that level of simplicity, okay? That is my strong advice. All right. That's it. Hope you guys have a great week, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.